the concept for June was, oh wow, I'm talking wrong month. It is July and I was talking June. Oh no, I gotta start all that again. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm bringing you the July recap for my Monochromatic Year Project Pen Book Edition. So just a quick reminder that this project was created by KaliFab, all the links down below, and this project is a makeup based project, though I decided to change it up a bit and use books instead. So the concept is that you read books or pan makeup or do whatever it is that you like to do and connect it to the color of that month. So I have been doing that throughout this year. I have been connecting the books that I read each month to the color of that month, mostly, but we'll get into that as we go along. So this month's color was glitter, which works perfectly for makeup. Glitter and shimmer works great, but for books it was a lot harder. So it was glitter / shimmer in any color. So I was stumped. I wasn't really sure how I was going to go about this month. And in fact, at some point I thought maybe I could just do books with lots of colors on it and say, oh, it's rainbow. Is that what you meant by any color? But I decided to try a little bit harder and see what I could find. And I actually managed to read 2 books this month that were connected to this theme. So let's just jump straight into it and we'll talk about the first book I read. Okay, I listened to it via audiobook, but I still class it as read. So that book was Glitter and Glue by Kelly Corrigan. So the concept of this story is it's a retelling of a girl's relationship, I guess, with her mother. Parts of it, she is from America. Kelly is from America. However, majority of the story is set in Australia. I'm going to say right now that at times, I wasn't really sure if it was set in Australia. There were certain terms and certain words and certain things that were done that I didn't relate to. However, I was talking to someone else about it, and I mentioned this theme park that is mentioned in the book that I had personally never heard of and didn't resonate with me. And it turns out that that theme park had actually existed at some point, as well as the television program that is spoken about. However, I would like to note that the television program that is spoken about in the book is actually a US television program, a US soap opera. So for that instance, though I don't know how much of this story from Kelly, because the main character is also called Kelly, is a, a fictionized fact. So I don't know how much of it actually come from truth. So anyway, I would have preferred it though if they'd spoken about shows such as Neighbours or Home and Away, which are very popular Australian TV shows. But that is besides the point. So there were at times where, for me personally, in my experience of living in Australia and being Australian, I didn't connect. Though also in saying that, I personally am from West Australia and South Australia, so where they were talking about experiences in New South Wales, that doesn't resonate as much with me because I don't know a lot of the stuff about what goes on there, apart from, you know, the stuff that we all have in common for being Australian. So that was a little bit not jarring, possibly jarring. I think at times I just thought, oh, really? Has she actually been to Australia? So especially in regards to some of the words they use and the way they talk about things in certain ways, like, oh, weird Australian habit, but it was not a weird Australian habit. So I don't know, and I don't know as well, the book is probably written, it's written obviously by someone who is not from this country, but it's written from someone's perspective who isn't from this country. And also it's written for an audience that might not necessarily be like my country. So I think it was meant to be one of those scenarios where when it was happening you felt out of place because that's not where you're from. Where for me it should have felt, I should have resonated more with the Australian characters and felt connected to them and their story in a different way, but really I couldn't get connected because it felt so out of place. Does that make any sense at all? Probably not. I would like to say though, I actually enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the story. I like this story of this girl who wants to go on this adventure, and she travels to Australia and she ends up nannying for this family who have lost their mother, have lost that main guiding connection. And she starts this story saying, you know, her and her mother's relationship isn't great. Her mother's relationship with her when they were in childhood and teen years was not fantastic. And you go through it and you learn her relationship with her mother better. She starts to connect with her mother better and understand why her mother does what her mother does, and that just continues to build until she comes back to her current present and says like how much that has now affected her future going forward, and how, you know, she now understands a lot of what her mother did and said, especially now that she has children of her own, etc., etc. So I think it was a very good developmental story of a relationship between a daughter and a mother, and also a daughter and a father, which is where the concept of glitter and glue comes into it. And the mum in herself comments and says that the husband's the glitter while she's the glue, you know, and I think that concept is heavily developed throughout the book. So overall, although some aspects of the Australian experience didn't ring 100% true for me personally, I indeed enjoyed this book. I enjoyed this story, and I enjoyed the fact that there's this story in her life, this time, and then she's now moved on from this and moved, you know, to her future. And in that future, she's not still connected to that past story. It's just something that happened. It's somebody she used to know. It's an experience that she had that she really did leave behind. She really did get on that plane and go home with no one chasing her down the gangplank. So that was a very realistic part of this story, that something happened and she experienced it and it was profound on her, and she never really knows if she had a profound you know, effect on the other characters in the story. She doesn't really know if they ended up well, or if you know, they ended up happy, or what happened essentially. She doesn't know where their future went, and that's not part of the story for us. We are left in the same place where, you know, we know our story and we know how it's affected us, but we don't always know how it affects others. And sometimes you want to do the right thing, but you never know. Like, it doesn't, you know, sometimes their experience isn't, it's not that their experience isn't important, but it is not your experience. It's not your knowledge to have. I literally just spoke for 10 minutes about this one book. So going from that book that was very heavily set in the, you know, straight out of school, young 20-something, moving up to the 30-something story, I'm now jumping backwards, and I read The It Girl by Katie Britchell. So this is a teen book. In my library it's shelved as teen. If you look it up on Goodreads, it's said to be teen. I disagree, basically. So Anna, the main character, is not very old. She's around 13, I think, which, I mean, 13 is teen, but it seems so little. when you're reading the book, I would have actually thought that this book would have been more for your C readers, your 9 to 12s, is that it? 10 to 12, sorry. I would have expected it more to be for your 10 to 12 readers, because a lot of the things that happen, I kind of felt would have suited them better. It seemed very immature, I guess is the way to say it, where I expect a teen book to be dealing with more the, you know, the older issues, the older concerns, those type of things. I definitely think that maybe this book would be better off for the younger age group. But in saying that, it was easy to read. It was a pleasant story overall. It did deal a lot with secondhand embarrassment. But at the same time, I personally did not like Anna as a character. I know that a lot of people say she's sweet and she's funny and she's awkward, because that's the concept. The concept is awkward teen girl, you know, just finding her way, just coming into puberty, just liking boys, just, you know, dealing with this concept of popularity and being cool. And, you know, she likes Spider-Man and the DC and Marvel and, you know, kind of geeky, kind of nerdy. And it deals with this concept of popularity and becoming an it girl, because her father starts dating a famous actress. A lot of the things that I felt that Anna did was not awkward, fumbling, oh, I made a mistake, I'm just learning. I felt that some of the things that she did, they try to play it off like she thinks somehow she has this idea that it's going to help both her and her friends. But really, just no. Like there's something happens with, I guess a bit of a spoiler alert, something happens where she has tickets to a famous band, and she says that she will take her friend. She's not a fan of the band personally, but her best friend is. So she says she's going to take her best friend to this band, and she's got tickets. Something happens, and the boy that she has a crush on, who is very popular, the cool boy at school, he tells her that he really likes this band. Now, he doesn't know about these tickets at this point, but he tells her that he really likes this band. So she says that she might be able to get him tickets, and they could go. Anyway, she is not able to get an additional ticket to make 3 tickets. So in that concept, what do you do? And I guess, big spoiler, she doesn't take her best friend. But then when it comes to, push comes to shove, she tries to play it off. Well, the book plays it off like this is actually her intentions. Personally, I feel like she tried to play it off. As this idea that she thought if she got in with the cool crowd, then her friends would be cool too, and it's all about them being cool together. Which I personally didn't feel was really Anna's deep, dark, in her soul intentions. Anna wanted to be cool, Anna wanted to be popular, and Anna did things that hurt her friends to get there. And then when it turns out that at the end of the day, just because you're popular doesn't mean that people like you, doesn't mean that people actually want to be your friend, and this popular group wasn't that nice, she comes back to her friends. You know, she kind of goes, I've made a mistake, and, you know, then makes this big gesture, which personally as well as something I felt was her spotlighting. But, and it has a happy ending. So basically, I didn't really enjoy this book. I love Katie's writing. She's a very easy to read, and though I guess one of the things I will comment, there's whole sections in here where the girls are emailing each other, and this isn't the only time I've seen such things in books. I've seen emails used previously, but I guess for the time now, emailing is not really the go-to. So this book was done in 2015, and I think by 2015, texting was probably the bigger you know, the bigger thing by then. So maybe if it was Messenger, I mean, I don't know if Messenger was still cool in 2015, but I used that in like 2006 and 2005, which is 10 years before 2015. So Messenger probably was out by then too. But texting was a thing back when I was in school. Texting and Messenger were cool, were all the rage, were the go-to part of communication back in 2006 and 2005. So the fact that this book's come out in 2015 and the main characters are emailing each other seems a bit off to me. It didn't really fit. And I don't know if I was a teen reader or a kid reader, how jarring that would be for them either. So this is the first in a series. I think there's 2 more books in this series. And I don't personally think I will continue with this book because I found Anna, whose character is meant to be, you know, bumbling and awkward and kind of cute and charming, I didn't really find her to be cute and charming. I felt that she was too focused on, you know, what other people thought of her, which I guess is something that teens do heavily experience. But I guess I would like to read a book where the kid who is kind of awkward and kind of fumbling and loves DC and Star Wars and every other nerdy thing under the sun doesn't care if they're popular or not. I would like to see a book where that main character doesn't have to spend their whole time trying to be cool and then realizing, actually, I'd rather just be me. Why can't they just be happy being me? I would like to read that in a book. I understand that that's not the concept of a lot of books because you got to have, you know, you got to have conflict and resolution. And I understand as well that maybe a lot of teens are also struggling a lot, teens and children and even adults. You know, adults are struggling with this too. But that concept of being yourself or being, you know, fitting in easier. So I guess it's not really possible, but personally I think I would like to read a book where the main character, the issue, the conflict is not, you know, whether they want to be cool or not. And also, I would kind of like to read a book where the popular kid is not, you know, an grade A a-hole. Like, I guess I understand that that's very common, is the popular kid's popular and they get popular by pushing down the, you know, the lower levels of children, you know, of grades in the hierarchy that is the high school life. But I guess the thing is, a lot of the times the cool kids are really not nice in these books, in these stories, in these movies. And sometimes I think, why? Why can't they be nice? Like, why can't they be nice and be popular? Like, a lot of the times they're not, but sometimes there are nice ones. So why can't they be popular? Or why can't the awkward, nerdy kid be popular? I don't know. I guess that's just, I'm just trying to break all the rules of high school in this, you know, 20-minute video. Okay, so basically that's kind of where I left off with that book. So I will say, personally, it is not my favourite, you know, rags to riches style. Once I get there, I realise I would rather still be me style book. However, it is very popular and overall the writing is very easy to read and parts of the story are interesting. I do think I would have liked to maybe have delved more into Jessie, her best friend. So her best friend, it turns out you get snippets of this idea that she has her own set of insecurities. She is the character who doesn't fit in, but is just rolling with it, and I am who I am, and I'm going to do what I want to do. But at the same time, you see certain aspects where she shows her own insecurities. And I would think I would like to actually delve more into that side of the story, because I did actually like her a lot better than I liked Anna. But obviously, it is not to be. As I said earlier, I do like to connect all the books I read to the theme, coloured theme for that month. However, sometimes that is not possible. And the reason for that is that I am technically a part of a book club. Actually, I'm part of 2 book clubs. I'm lucky to say that currently the books I've been able to read for one of them has matched up until now, so that has been good. Though I recently joined an international book club, which is definitely a new experience for me. So Elise, who I'll have linked down below, her Instagram details, as part of the Pans and Books Instagram page, also linked down below, created a book club called Book Blub. There's a whole story behind why it's called that, but we are just rolling with it, and I get a massive kick out of it every time I say it. So I joined Book Blub because I wanted to have an experience where I heard about, spoke to others from completely different backgrounds than myself about what they thought of the books that we're reading. Also, I'm finding that the books that are being chosen are books that I would never pick up on my own choices. I probably wouldn't even know that they exist. So far, I have definitely been enjoying it. So Book Blub is a bi-monthly book club, and it's rotating. So each month, bi-month, I guess, another person selects the books that we're going to read. Well, gives us an option of 3, and then we all vote, and then that's how it happens. So I will say I am looking forward to when it is my turn, because I think I would like to pick books that are heavily Australian based, because obviously that is, you know, where I'm from, and I would like to see what others think of that experience, if that makes sense. Anyway, so for last month, so in July, for our August meeting, we read Hitting a Straight Lick with a Crooked Stick by Zora Neale Hurston, I think it said like. So it was a book of her short stories. So that's a book that I would not have picked up. In fact, I don't physically have a copy in my library, and I found it on our local Libby app, and that's how I got a hold of the book. But other than if someone had brought it to my attention, I wouldn't have read it. In fact, I'd never heard of Zora before, even though it turns out she's quite a famous author from the Harlem times. That's where most of her stories are set. I think in the introduction they refer to it as something like the Harlem Renaissance or something like that. Please forgive me if I have got that wrong. But reading them stories was very different to what I am used to reading. So a lot of books I read are teen fiction, a young adult fiction, some adult fiction, but they're very new age. Reading that was very much more like reading an older book, such as like Romeo and Juliet. So the way the words, the way the speaking especially is written, is that you would read it for how it was actually articulated. So then when you say the word, you say it how it's written, you say it how it's written, it comes out with how it would actually sound being said, rather than how the word is actually spelt, if that makes sense. And that was definitely a bit of a learning curve to get over when starting to read the books. There was time so that there was words I have no idea what they meant, and just using, you know, piecing it together from what was surrounding it or how the story was leading was how I kind of went, okay, I think this is what they're trying to say. But overall, I definitely enjoyed the short stories that were housed within this book, especially watching the progression from one style all the way to another, definitely trying different things, different experiences in writing. A few of them did kind of follow very similar tropes, while there were others which had completely different concepts. I will say my favourite was a story about a young man who wanted to go traveling, go on an adventure, go and experience the world. But he got married, and his family, the women in his family, you know, didn't want him to go and really forced him to stay. And then stuff happened, and the ending was very, very bittersweet. So, yeah, it definitely made me cry. So that was very that was a very good book to read. And I definitely enjoyed book club and being able to then discuss the stories and discuss what we liked and didn't like, but not super heavy discussions, just light discussions about the book, with people who have completely different life experiences, cultural experiences, and world experiences than me. So I definitely would say, if you're interested in joining a book club, check out Pans and Books and definitely get on board. So like I said, it's bi-monthly, so we have 2 months to read a book for the next month. The next book that we're actually reading is Frog Music, I think that's what it's called, which I'm going to get on audiobook, and I'm going to listen to it on audiobook. So we will see how that goes. But, and I would also be interested then in talking to people about how my experience of listening to it via audiobook compared to them reading it will differ. Anyway, so that's basically everything that I managed to get through in July. So really, I officially read 3 books. However, only 2 of them counted towards my monochromatic year. So now we're heading into the month of August. Well, obviously, when you're watching this video, we are already well into the month of August. But for me, I'm just going to say we're heading into the month of August. So August's theme is brown, which is a very different theme. I thought it would actually be a lot easier to find books with brown on them, but surprisingly enough, it is not always that easy. In saying that, I'm definitely looking forward to reading around in the theme of brown, and I've actually picked one book so far, which I'm reading via audiobook, which is a continuation of a book I read earlier within this year. So, which is one actually that I didn't think I would go into the second one, but now that I've started the second one, I'm kind of interested in going into the rest in this series, because it's one of those series where the book actually gets better with the second one. Anyway, I have been rambling for way too long, and I don't really have too much else to say. So I'm Verity. That was the July recap for my monochromatic year Project Pan book edition. And now to the outro.